The official view from the Kremlin is that Russians believe their war in Ukraine is a noble cause, one they're ready to die for. But after 10 months of fighting, not all the soldiers think that. Sergei has agreed to tell me about his son, Stas, an army officer. We've changed their names to protect their identities. Deployed to Ukraine, his son refused to fight.
He told me it was a difficult decision for him to take. I told him better to take it. This is not our war. It's not a war of liberation. I'll put that in writing that I refused to fight, he said. He and several others who refused had their guns taken off them and were put under armed guard.
Sergei travelled to the front line in Ukraine to try to secure his son's release. Eventually, Stas was sent back to Russia and revealed the full drama of his detention, how Russian soldiers had tried to force him to fight.
They beat him, and then they took him outside as if they were going to shoot him. They made him lie on the ground and told him to count to 10. He refused, so they beat him over the head several times with a pistol. He told me his face was covered in blood, and then they took him into a room and told him, "You're coming with us, otherwise we'll kill you." But someone there said, "I'll take him to work in the storeroom."
And there are other stories. These mobilised Russian troops were locked in a cellar after they said they won't go back into battle. Basements turned into dungeons for those who don't want to fight.
Refuses to fight.
Human rights activists say cases like these reflect the pressure Russian soldiers are coming under in Ukraine from their own commanders.
Это просто метод заставить людей опять вернуться на эту бойню.
It's a way of making people go back into that bloodbath. But it's not possible to force people to fight in a war. The commanders know only violence and intimidation. They're used to it.
Why are some Russian soldiers in Ukraine refusing to go back to the front? In some cases, it is a moral decision, but for many others, having experienced the horrors of the battlefield, it's simply an attempt to stay alive. Later, I speak to the mother of a Russian lieutenant. She says he'd contacted her from Ukraine to tell her he'd been put in a basement after disobeying orders to advance. He was with 4 other officers. They haven't been seen for 5 months.
I was later told that the building they were in was shelled and that all 5 men were missing. They said no remains were found. It doesn't make sense. It's absurd. The way my son was treated wasn't only illegal, it was inhuman.
Russia has inflicted enormous suffering on its neighbour. It's threatening its own people, too.
My son told me, "I never thought my own country would treat me this way. People here don't understand how much danger we're in. Not from the opposing side, but from our side."
For this war, the Kremlin is demanding total support. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Russia.